Hi, I'm Brendia Miller, just a girl who feels like she barely survived from being 18 to 29, from an abusive marriage to divorce, pregnant with my sweet girl to the mom of an angel, and this was all before I was even 20. Since then, I married the high school sweetheart, had a sweet boy, wrote a few books, blogs, and in 9 years, 3 states, 4 cities, 13 homes, 2 hotels, 1 angel girl, 1 sweet boy, a bunch of jobs, and an insane amount of love and laughter. Here I am, 30 years old, talking to you, sharing my wisdom from the infinite lessons I have learned while still learning to navigate around the things that I haven't. Come along and navigate with me. There is room here for your joy, your grief, your hormones, your emotions, your friendships, relationships, heartbreak, and all of the other things that come along with being in your 30s. Hey 30-something gang, welcome back to the In Your 30s podcast with your host, Brendia Miller. If you're new here, welcome. I am so glad that you are here. I used to say that anybody and everybody is welcome at my table anytime. And, I meant it with my whole heart. I've said this for a very long time, and I really, truly meant it. Whether it was talking about sharing a meal or just sharing details of our life over a cup of coffee or whatever. I really wanted to be a person who made room for anyone who needed a seat. And it felt kind. It felt loving. It felt right. But as I've gotten older, I've come to understand that while the sentiment is full of good intentions, it can also be an extremely dangerous idea and sentiment to have in life. Not in the way you might assume. I'm not talking about the danger of strangers or bad actors. I'm talking about the danger of keeping people you love at a table where they no longer have a seat. And when we talk about removing people's seats from our table, it's very hard to sometimes sit with because there can be a lot of grief. I think that's one of the hardest parts. And when we talk about letting go of people, we don't always acknowledge that it is a loss. And loss comes with pain. It comes with grief. Even when the relationship doesn't serve us anymore. It doesn't mean that we stop loving the person overnight. It doesn't mean that we forget the good moments, the laughter, or the history that we've shared. It just means that it's time for us to move on. When me and my first husband went and got a divorce, I had begged him to sign the divorce papers for like a year. I was like, dude, I just want you to sign the divorce papers. And finally, he did it, and we went to court, and I was so happy to be getting divorced because he had moved on while we were still, living together, basically. We weren't even split up yet, and he was talking to a girl, and I, basically, after we split up, I had my daughter, and then she passed away. A while after that, I started dating the man I'm married to now, and he was my high school sweetheart, and all of these things. But we started dating again, and I was still a little sad, even though I was happy with the fact that we were getting divorced. It was still letting go of a chapter. We had a kid together, and even though she had passed away, that doesn't really change that history. It doesn't take anything away from that, except for we will no longer have to deal with each other in the future, which ultimately, honestly, I think is a blessing for the both of us. But letting go and removing people from your table, it doesn't remove the history. It doesn't remove the good times. It doesn't remove the moments that you enjoyed with that person. The moments that are triggered by a scent or a song or a restaurant or a food, whatever the case may be. Grief isn't just for death. It is for the living too. Unfortunately, in this world that we live in, we grieve people that are living. And it's for the moments that we thought we'd have and the futures that we envisioned with certain people in our lives. It's mourning the version of someone we used to know before the circumstances changed and choices were made, and personal growth has even changed things maybe. And that grief is so real and so valid, and something we have to sit with before we can move forward. So how do we process the grief of losing someone who is alive? How do we allow ourselves to let go while we still honor the love that we once had for someone? One of the big things is giving ourselves permission to feel. There is sometimes this feeling that we shouldn't grieve someone who hurt us, who done us wrong, but that's not really how it works. You have to acknowledge the pain. You have to give yourself space to recognize that this hurts. Don't rush past it or minimize it or say, oh, well, I'm over it, when you're not. Name your emotions and let them be real. Journaling can help you to write down your thoughts and your feelings and process your emotions that you are feeling and what you're going through. It helps to give form to your grief and can bring clarity to the situation. It's just like if you're writing and you're brainstorming, and we used to do all those little bubble charts, where you'd put the idea in the middle and then you'd do all the little things on the sides. It's just like that. It helps you work through all of those feelings. And when you're grieving someone, dead or alive, there is a rush and a mix and a multitude of feelings, and they come in waves and they come and they go, and it's truly something that journaling can really help you organize. Of course, you can also talk to someone you trust. Sometimes speaking with someone that is trusted with your emotions and your vulnerability, and speaking your emotions out loud to that trusted friend or therapist or mentor can really validate your experience and help you feel less alone. Because I promise you, we've all grieved someone who is alive. We've all had friendship breakups or relationship breakups, or just moments where we can no longer deal with someone's behavior and we have to set boundaries. We've all had at least one of those moments in our life. So finding someone that you trust and who knows how to listen and support and validate your feelings can help you truly work through that and feel less alone. And then a lot of people also like to do a ritual of release, which is what it's called, when you write a letter that you're never going to send, or lighting a candle, or doing something symbolic of letting go, basically. Ritualizing the grief can help provide closure. I had a friend that did me wrong, and I broke everything that she ever gave me. Literally went in the woods and just started tossing it. Because it was mugs and stuff like that, because that's what I was into at the time. And so, it can help so much to just grieve and release that grief in healthy ways. And allow yourself the moments of sadness that you will ultimately feel. That is part of grieving. There will be days where you miss them. So instead of pushing that sadness away, let yourself sit with it. Play that song, look at that picture, remember what was, but then remind yourself why things are different now. Appreciate the moments you had, but stay grounded in the boundaries that you have had to set. Honor the love. Keep the good memories sacred. You don't have to erase the past to move forward. You don't have to trash the things that you used to do, or even I've seen people say, oh, well, I only did this because of this, and da-da-da-da-da. You don't have to tarnish those memories. You can leave them in good standing, and you can cherish the good times for what they were, when they were, without defending coming up with a defense mechanism, basically, and defending yourself and putting a wall up and saying in angry outburst, I only did this to do this and I played you and blah, 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 like whatever. Even if they no longer define the present relationship. Make sure that you're recognizing the lessons learned. Every relationship teaches us something. Every single relationship teaches us something. What did this person show you about yourself, about love, about, whatever it is that you need and deserve? Sometimes people are a good lesson and sometimes they are a bad lesson. Sometimes they teach us that, we aren't alone. And sometimes they teach us that, we deserve better. And that's just how it goes. Choose to forgive. Forgiveness isn't about condoning bad behavior. You don't have to say it's okay. You don't have to say, whatever, because even when you accept an apology, you can tell someone that their behavior was not okay. FYI. You could say, the way you treated me was not okay, but I will accept your apology for changed behavior. And that is okay. It's about freeing yourself from carrying the weight of resentment. And even if this is someone that you no longer want to have further contact with, you don't care if they have changed behavior because you're cutting them off. You're setting a boundary. You can say, yeah, I forgive you. It was not okay. You hurt me, but I forgive you. However, my boundary stands. And going forward, I do not feel like putting myself in this position again. And that's okay too. It is okay to not be okay with that person again and not reconnect and rekindle and all of that. It is okay to say, what you did was not okay. I forgive you. But moving forward, this is the boundaries. That's perfectly okay. As long as you do not skip the forgiveness part. You have to forgive. And it does take working through it. It's not an overnight process. It's not just saying, hey, I forgive you. It's not that simple. It's working through it. And it can take a lot of time to do that. But as long as you do not skip that step, then yeah, go for it. If you need to set boundaries, if you cannot give any more chances, do it. Just make sure that you are forgiving that person for you, because every time that you think about it, every time that it comes up, if it's still working you up, it's something you need to work through and work on forgiving, because it's working you up. It's not working them up every time you think about it. You're the one who gets the higher blood pressure. You're the one who is experiencing the anxiety. You're the one who is experiencing the stress and the hurt over and over again because you haven't worked through it and you haven't found the forgiveness so that you don't have to continue to feel that way and your body does not continue to react that way to the situation coming up again and again. And it's a progress. It's a process. It's a progress. It's a process. And it takes time. Like I said, it's not overnight. Give yourself grace. And sometimes you just have to celebrate someone from afar. If you still love that person, but you cannot have them in your life for whatever reason, you can still wish them well silently. You can still hold space for their happiness without needing to be a part of it and celebrate it with them. You can celebrate it for them on your own with just loving them from a distance. Well wishes, good vibes, not trashing them or talking bad on them or wishing against whatever it is that is bringing them their happiness or whatever. And then remind yourself that it's really about the journey. Accept that growth changes relationships. Not everyone is meant to walk every step of life with us. Some people are only chapters, not the whole book. Understand that letting go doesn't mean failure. Just because a relationship ended doesn't mean it was a waste of time. It served a purpose in your life for the period and the season that it was in. And then focus on who's at your table now. Instead of mourning the empty seats, look at who is sitting with you now. When you're at your table, when you're with the people who have a seat, enjoy it, appreciate it. Who are the people that are pouring into you? Who deserves your energy? Those are the people that deserve your love and your appreciation when they're around, instead of you focusing on the things that have happened in the past with other people. It takes away from the relationship. And oftentimes, I'll be honest with you, I don't want to be around people who are always trashing people just because they did something wrong or did something they don't agree with, or even just got into a disagreement. And sometimes when we start to enjoy the people at our table and we start to move on and we start to heal, we can find that one of the biggest challenges of letting go and doing all of that is dealing with the grief that follows. We question ourselves. Am I abandoning them? Am I being selfish? Should I have tried harder? Should I have given more chances? But here's the truth. Letting go isn't an act of cruelty. Staying in relationships that drain you, that require you to shrink yourself, that force you to tolerate disrespect or mistreatment, that's what's truly unkind, both to yourself and to the other person. Ways to work through the guilt are sometimes harder to find and even harder to do. But a lot of times we have to recognize that we can't save everyone. It's not your job to fix people. It's not your responsibility to force them to grow and heal. Every single person is responsible for their own growth and healing as adults. Now, kids, that's one thing, but adults, we are all responsible for our own growth and our own healing. And if we can't do that, then that is on us. That is not on anyone else. Understand that self-preservation is not a selfish act. It's prioritizing your well-being. It doesn't mean that you don't care about others. It means that you care about yourself too. And maybe the people that are draining you are taking away from the people who are not draining you and who are feeding into you. And you want to be able to have more of yourself to give to the people who give to you, instead of having those one-sided relationships. And that's okay. It's not selfish. No matter what people try to tell you. You know, we, in my family, we always have to hear, if we try to not talk to people, about how they're our family, and, you know, we should try to forgive and we should work it out and all these things. But sometimes, honestly, the best thing you can do is to protect yourself. And sometimes that means we have to remember why we let go. When that guilt creeps in, we have to revisit the reasons that we made that decision. Write them down if you need to, you know, and that can also make forgiveness hard. That can make moving on hard, because you have to revisit the situation to stay grounded and focused in the boundaries that you have set. And I personally have to do this regularly because I changed my number right before Christmas, and so I didn't give it to no one. I didn't give it to none of my family. And I literally have to keep reminding myself why I'm not reaching out to them. Why, when something good happens in my life, they're not the people that I want to tell, because I want to tell them. But then when I do, I'm always disappointed in the reaction or the support that I get. And on top of that, when I am having a hard time, I don't ever feel like those people have my back. I don't feel like I have the support. I feel like I'm taking bullets and buses for people that I shouldn't be taking them for. And so I have to remind myself, these are the reasons why you are not doing these things no more. And it's very hard. It is so hard. And I also have to give myself grace, because there are times where I genuinely take to heart what people say about being selfish, or, you know, being a bad person for choosing peace and cutting people off and having boundaries and not having certain people in certain aspects of my life. But in reality, it does not make me heartless for setting boundaries and even having to cut people out when necessary. Let yourself move forward without carrying this unnecessary shame. Because if those people wanted to be there, they would have respected you from the beginning. They would have been there the way you needed from the beginning. Or they would have made the effort to do so when it was addressed. And when we finally let go of those people who no longer fit in our lives, we create space. We create space that can be filled with people who do align with us, who respect us, who bring us joy and support. Signs that you are making room for the right people and creating this space is that your relationships are going to feel so much lighter. They don't feel heavy. There is not a constant tension, a constant drama, or an emotional exhaustion just from dealing with that person in that relationship. You feel safe being yourself. You don't have to walk on eggshells or filter your personality to keep the peace. You don't have to lie about who you are. You don't have to do any of that. You can be who you are openly and freely. You're growing together. You're not growing in separate directions. You're not wanting completely different things out of life. The right people will encourage your growth instead of resenting it or being jealous of it. And then mutual effort is always present in relationships with the correct people. You're not the only one reaching out. You're not the only one checking in. You're not the only one making effort to maintain the connection and be whatever is needed from your side of the relationship. The beauty of releasing the wrong people is that it opens the door for the people who truly belong. And the thing about it is that once we have invited these people in, and once we have the people and the space for these people, we get to actually enjoy the peace that we have created. Once we've let go, once we've processed the grief, once we've done forgiveness, once we've released the guilt and we've worked through the emotions, we've made room for the right people. The final step is just learning to enjoy the peace that we have cultivated. Sometimes we have a hard time enjoying good things. Sometimes we have a hard time being loved, and sometimes we just have a hard time when life is going smooth because we're used to chaos. And I've heard people even say that they thrive in chaos, but the truth about it is no one thrives in chaos. We survive in chaos. And so for me, practicing being present has really been something that has helped me instead of dwelling on what was or focusing on what is. Enjoying the moments of calm and the moments of fulfillment that have come with healthier relationships has really helped me work through my emotions and my resentments and my anger and my hurt and just all of the things, the guilt, the grief, just all of the emotions that have come with it. So I don't try to dwell on what was, even when I'm reminding myself, so that I can stay grounded. And I just focus on the moments now. You know, one thing that I think is so important is putting my phone down. I put my phone down more now than ever. I don't care what's going on. I just want to be with the people that I love and that are right for me to be around and with. And that's what matters to me in most of my day, and has given me that peace and that room to enjoy the peace that I have created. And sometimes peace feels boring, but it's important to recognize that peace isn't really boring. It's the reward for making hard choices. It's like rest. It is rest for our souls and our bodies and our emotions and our mental health, because ultimately we think peace is boring, and then we get in the chaos and we're overwhelmed and we're stressed. And it's not boring no more, but we're worn down. And I will take boring over worn down any day. Reward me. Reward me. I'm just going to embrace the contentment. because ultimately I've worked very hard to create this contentment, and I've went through a lot of processing and emotions to create this life, and I'm going to celebrate my growth. I'm going to allow myself to enjoy it without guilt. I'm going to allow myself to celebrate my small wins and my big wins and be proud of the life that I have created. And then I'm going to continue to trust myself moving forward, knowing that I can make these decisions and continue to build a life that serves me better and in all the best ways that I need met. And if we don't ever allow ourselves to enjoy the peace that we have created and to be present and to embrace the contentment and to celebrate our growth and to trust ourselves moving forward, it complicates the process of not repeating the cycle. And so we have to learn to enjoy the life that we have created and the peace that we've created so that we don't repeat those cycles and we don't repeat pulling up chairs for people at our table who do not deserve a seat. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of In Your 30s. If this episode did resonate with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to leave a comment or even shoot me a message on Instagram. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave us a 5-star review. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember, not everyone can sit at your table. Not everyone deserves the seat, and that's okay. It's okay.